Cordovez with a scoop, live from Bellagio with Chad Brown. Adam Schoenfeld is off serving his PokerStars corporate masters today.
Okay.
So it will just be us. But we're just starting the World Series main event now, but you've had a great World Series, 7 cashes. And most impressive of all, a runner-up in the deuce to 7, which I think is fascinating because the deuce to 7 low ball, it's a small field but very tough field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, how do you prepare or how do you practice for this game, which is like never spread? How do you become good at it?
Well, actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in all the high-stakes cash games, deuce to 7 triple draw is a regular game in the mix.
Right.
Like that, and I actually think maybe next year the World Series may actually put in Badugi. I don't know if you're familiar with Badugi.
Badugi's now, if you play like here in the Bellagio card room, if you want to play higher stakes, Badugi's in the rotation.
It's always in.
And a lot of people don't know, but whether it's OE or B is going to be in there.
B's going to be in there, and that's the same in LA too.
Yeah.
It's a gambling game, but there's a lot of skill to it. But to a lot of the players who just get familiar with it, they think, oh, it's just a lucky game. But it's actually a lot of skill, but they have fun too because it is a gambling game.
Oh, it's fun. It's a drawing game.
It's a drawing game, and it's like...
And also with multiple streets, a lot of chances to make mistakes. Which also is a big part of making a game good.
Absolutely. Now, in the deuce to 7 no limit, which is only one draw,
right? Very different. Very
I never played it live in a cash game, and very few people have. It's really more of a game that the old timers used to play.
Right. That's what makes it interesting. That a younger guy like you can just come in and play this game really well because there's no way to really practice it. Even online, they're not spreading deuce to 7 no limit games.
Right. Well, because I play mixed games as they're on a regular basis, adjusting to identifying what is the key essentials to being successful at a particular game gives me an advantage. Also, because I play deuce to 7 triple draw, I understand the math, I understand what the percentages are, and then of course, just being a good no-limit hold'em player, you're really playing your opponents, and you basically start to pick up where, okay, this is what this person's doing before the first draw, this is what that person's doing, this person makes moves, so you get to identify. I was lucky to start out. I was at the table with Lyle Berman and Eric Lindgren, which both of these guys
they're willing to gamble.
They're willing to gamble because they're not afraid to rebuy and rebuy.
Right.
So I actually got a lot of chips right off the bat from Lyle because Lyle was just going all in. He just wanted to gamble, and he's got the money to do it. So it's like, let me just see. Hey, I'll just rebuy every 2 times. Fortunately for me, I didn't even have to buy but my one bullet.
I'd be very interested to know from the past winners how many were able to win it like on 1 bullet or even just 2 bullets, because traditionally this used to be called buy a bracelet.
Right.
Because it was a very small field. It used to be like 20 guys or 25 guys before the poker boom.
Right.
And most of them were willing to rebuy a lot, and the ones who weren't were at a huge disadvantage. Now it's a bigger field. And rebuying obviously still has an advantage, but now you've got a stronger field, deeper, and but to do it without a rebuying is like an extra accomplishment in itself.
Oh,
that's
sure,
very strong.
And that was lucky. Like again, it's random which table you're going to get.
Yeah.
So it was fortunate for me to get the table that I had, number one, and also that was going to be part of my strategy. Whether I rebought was going to be based on how good my table was. So I would have rebought at that table. I wouldn't have rebought the way Lyle rebuys.
No, right. But no, if you have to, you have to. And also, it's worth it because, like in any rebuy event, it's only worth it if the other guys have enough chips to make it worth getting equity from the chips that you're buying.
Right.
If you're just buying a lot of chips and the other guys aren't giving action or they don't have a lot of chips that you're going to have a chance to win, then you're getting a lot less value for your money. So
right.
With those guys out there, it's like you're going to get a shot at their chips.
No question about it. That's exactly right. In any rebuy tournament, that should be the strategy.
I'm not surprised you did well. I mean, I guess on 2 counts, but one of them is that knowing how to play poker is still valuable. And I say that in the sense that No Limit Hold'em has become so popular that a lot of guys have now become No Limit Hold'em specialists.
Right.
And they're great at No Limit Hold'em, but they play on the internet all day, multiple tables. They know every strategy, but they haven't even played these other games. And if they went and played the live games, like the ones downstairs here, they'd probably get killed because these games have a lot of intricacies. And part of the advantage that players have who really are just good about thinking about the theory behind poker games in general is adapting to any new game And Adam actually today asked me, it's funny you brought up the Badugi, unplanned, but he asked me, why is Badugi so popular now? Why are they playing? I said, well, it's because these guys have to keep introducing new games so that they have an advantage over the other players, because other guys eventually become good at the games.
Very true.
You keep throwing new games into the mix, and other guys are trying to figure out the ins and outs. And if you just have a good fundamental understanding about what's involved in just poker in general, reading your opponents, and manipulating the pot and so forth, manipulating position, then you're way ahead of the game, even if you don't know all the.
That's
you
true.
have a lot of hands at a certain game.
No, that's very true, and your answer to Adam was also on the money too. A lot of the players who were the live ones in the game actually become better if they want to, because it's like a lot of people who are the live ones are businessmen, or they have money from family money or whatever, and they enjoy poker like everyone enjoys poker, and they want to play with the big boys. But some of them have egos, just like the poker players have egos, and they don't want to be the live one.
Right.
So they actually, and obviously for the businessmen, they're intelligent people who were successful in business. So they become buddies with a couple of pros, and they sort of get those pros to be their mentors, and they eventually become better. Not great, but they become maybe break even.
Right.
So
and better than a lot of the guys who are new to that
who
game,
are new,
who are moving up to that game.
Right. So then what do some of the creative pros do? They throw Badugi into the mix.
Right, exactly. All of a sudden, new game for you to try to figure out.
And then and this is normally what happens. They're like, oh, but I don't know. Oh, it's easy. It's it's just like triple draw. You play triple draw.
Right.
Hey, look, we play in 3 other games. You only play this once every 4 games. So what's the difference? Then they're like, all right,
Right. You're good at the other game. We play that one. So
right.
we play this one.
So you're not only manipulating the pot, you're manipulating your opponents too.
Well, that's an old part of the game. Those guys who've survived for a long time are experts at that. No
Absolutely.
Doubt. But as to why you'd be good at it, there are a lot of new tournament stars who just kind of hit the scene, and obviously they're good in one realm, or maybe they're not, and they've gotten lucky in one realm. And to the observer, you might fit into that because they've just seen you on TV the last year or two, but you've been a big cash game player, successful middle, high-limit player for a long time. Stud 8 or better, Omaha 8 or better, playing all the games. So now you're applying yourself to other games, and now you're on TV because the tournaments are on TV. But you've got a real background, a real strong background that you're drawing on. I mean, you're not just hitting the tournaments and taking a shot.
Right. No, it's true. When Chris Moneymaker won the main event of the World Series, that sort of changed the whole climate of poker. That's when the poker boom really took off. And being a former actor, understanding the way the theatrical business works, I saw that the big picture was that corporate America is going to come on board. Poker is going to become recognized as a sport.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, I don't want to. I better jump on the bandwagon right now. And tournament poker was not my forte. But like you said, if you're a poker player and you're good, you can adapt to all the situations and become, learn what it takes to be great at that.
Right.
And so in 2004, I started playing a lot more tournaments, and I had success. Came in second place in the World Series in stud event. Played Ted Forrest heads up.
I remember watching on TV, a very interesting match.
Yeah. Actually, the TV doesn't actually even show you. The TV actually showed more of us three-handed. I think it might have showed 2 hands of Ted and I playing heads up, but the truth is Ted and I played for over 5 hours heads up.
Right.
And the elusive bracelet eluded me once again. A lot of people don't know this. During the 5-hour match, I only went to the river twice behind.
Right.
Only twice. And the 2 times I went to the river behind, once I had queens up with a flush draw, the other time I had aces. And,
I remember one hand, and it's one of those, but I'm not sure exactly which one, where Ted made trips on the river against you. I'm pretty sure. I mean, one where he was behind, and he won a big pot on the river, and I think even the way the hand came down, he was able to check raise you on the river or win a big pot on the river. I don't know if you remember that particular one, but that was a pretty decisive hand, clearly.
The last hand of the match, I remember, once again going to the river, the favorite, I had a pair of jacks with a flush draw. Ted had a smaller pair with a straight draw. and
that might be it.
And he hit the straight on the river,
Right.
and that was how because they only showed two hands, but. Again, it's like for anyone who plays stud, even it doesn't matter whatever game you play. If you go into the last card, if you're ahead after playing 5 hours and you're ahead every time except for 2 times, it's pretty odd to lose. And in the match against Eric Seidel, heads up,
You were way ahead.
well, never mind way ahead. I was ahead every time I had them all in.
Right.
I mean, with the exception of once. 2 of the 3 times I had them all in. He was drawing 2, I was drawing 1. And I improved it, with the exception of the one time. The one time he had a jack made,
Right.
and I drew 1, and I was even money. So the 3 hands that Eric was all in, I was either a favorite or even money. And then the hand I got knocked out on, where Eric, if I win this pot, we'd be even in chips again. Once again, I raised on the button, Eric called, and Eric took 2, I took 1, and I made a 9-7,
Right.
and Eric let out, and I was actually, when I made the 9-7, remember, Eric took 2 cards.
Right,
so when I
exactly.
made a 9-7, I'm saying, I hope he hits. I hope he makes a hand because I'm going to double up.
And if he makes a hand, it doesn't have to be a really strong hand for
No.
him to bet it, because since he's taken 2, he knows that you're going to be calling a lot more hands, so you can't put him on a strong hand.
No
necessarily.
question. No, a strong hand would be a 10. That would be a strong
That
hand.
would be a pretty good get for a 2-card
A
draw.
nine-
And
a
one
nine-
that you could bet for value against
A
him.
9-8 would be a really strong hand.
Right.
I had a 9-7, which is a monster.
Yeah.
And when he bet, I had 600,000 left. He bet 250,000. I'm like, yes. And I raised my last 350, and he called, and I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Eric's a great player, and I was honored to play heads up against him with all the bracelets he had, and Eric was very gracious in winning, saying that he said, Chad, you played me really tough, and I had to get lucky to beat you.
Yeah, when you get heads up, and this applies to your match against Ted Forrest. Your strongest game, I think, is stud. Certainly the one you have the most experience in. Ted Forrest, who's a great all-around player, also is a stud
Right.
superstar. So in both matches, once you get heads up, especially with the blind structure the way it is here, which still gives you play, but it's not it's not like a live game where you're just going to play
No,
forever.
right.
You take 2 players who really are competent at that game. It's going to swing back and forth, and then someone's going to get lucky and win it. Although it would be nice to be the guy who gets to find a lucky hand one of these times.
Yeah, you can't listen. When you play heads up for the World Series of Poker bracelet, you can't ask for more than having a guy all in 3 times to win the bracelet,
Right.
and 2 to 3 times he's behind. 1 time it's even money. So mathematically, you're like, hey, how did you not win one of those 3 hands? But that's the way it goes. And it's funny you said deuce to 7, was ironic that's the one I wound up playing heads up in. What would have really been ironic is a game that I never played before, which I came in 5th, and that was Pot Limit Omaha High Low. Now,
Right.
I played Omaha High Low plenty of times. I actually came in 3rd a couple of years ago at the World Series in Omaha High Low, but I've never played Pot Limit Omaha High Low. And once again, took a really, really bad beat. I was second in chips with 5 players left, and I was in a hand against the chip leader who only had me covered by about 30,000.
Right.
And the other players were way behind us, and actually the chip leader was the better of the players that were left. And if I win this pot from him, I'm a sizable favorite to win that bracelet. And basically, I raised pre-flop. He called. On the flop, there was a flush draw, no low draw, and I had jacks up, had pocket jacks with an ace-4 low draw, and there was 2 hearts up there, and he bet the pot. And I knew I put him on the flush draw and probably a straight draw, and I just called, waiting to see what the turn was. And if the turn came good for me, meaning no low, no flush, I'm pushing.
Right.
And the turn came good, came 10 of spades, giving me actually now the nut ace-high flush draw
Right.
with the jacks up. So I push all in. The pot was like 320,000. I pushed all in, had 265,000, and he thought for a long time. And he's like, "Well," I call, and he had what I thought he had a baby flush draw, and
A different flush draw.
different hearts.
Not the same one you
Not
had.
the same one.
Yeah.
He was a 3-1 dog,
Right.
and don't worry, hit the Queen of Hearts on the river.
Yeah.
And that was that for that. I put myself in position. 3 times. And I came in 11th in the limit hold'em tournament,
Right.
and I put myself in position. That's all you can do as a poker player is give yourself the best opportunity. Put yourself in position, and if you don't get unlucky when you get down to the final table, you're giving yourself an opportunity to win a bracelet.
I think Pot Limit Omaha 8, the 8 or better, is really going to start growing in popularity. I actually first saw it on the internet, and it's grown there. But this is like the perfect game where everyone always has a draw. Everyone always wants to play it because any hand, even if you don't have a good high hand now, you can backdoor a low or chase the low. And, I mean, more action, there's going to be more action in that game than anything.
I think that game actually is the best game of all the games for the better player.
Right.
I think that game has
the
bad players. The bad players are going to be drawing slim. Like in stud, you have aces. Someone has deuces. They're only a 2-1 dog.
They're not that.
They're not that bad shape.
They have an overcard on you. I mean, they're really close. So it's correct.
This game is the first time the World Series had this, and that's the reason why it's the first time I've ever played it. They played a lot in Europe, but I think that this is going to become a big game here in the World Series, and also in the cash games because it's an action game.
It's made for the cash games, and guys are going to keep chasing and keep complaining about the beats they take because it's going to bring up beats, and that has its own dynamic.
No question about it.
It's a perfect game in that sense. You mentioned your acting background, and whenever you're on TV, they mention that, and obviously, primarily, you're a poker player. I was always curious about the fact that playing with you when I've played against you, when you're very sound, very strong, you know the games, and theatrics aren't a big part of your game. I mean, there are certain guys who really use their persona to manipulate situations, table talk, they're trying to get information, they're trying to give off false information. Now, maybe it's a very subtle thing that where you use some of your acting skills, or maybe that's an interesting facet of your life, but it's not something you use a lot at the poker table. But how does the acting fit into the playing? Because, like I say, you're not an overly demonstrative, you're not an overly talkative guy at the tables.
Well, if you're one of the guys that use being talkative a lot to extract information, you have to be consistent with that.
Right.
And it's like Mike Carroll, the Mad Genius. He actually said to me, for anyone who knows Mike, he comes across as being a little eccentric, and what he does is like, look, I just do goofy things all the time. So since I'm doing goofy things all the time, no one could get a read on me where I'm at because I'm doing the same thing all the time.
Right.
As long as you're consistent doing the same thing all the time, no one's going to get a read where you're at. But what I do, where my past acting experience helps me, is getting in the heads of my opponents, because when an actor reads a script and they're preparing to do a role, you're not playing yourself, you're playing another role, and some of the beliefs that role has may not be the beliefs you have, but you have to understand it and you have to own it.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand, where's that person coming from? Where are they coming from their point of view? So that helps me to understand the players at my table, understanding what's their point of view of me. So someone may think, Chad could be bluffed easy.
Right.
That's important information for me to understand, that they think that I'm easily bluffed, so I'm going to make more calls against them. Someone who thinks that I call a lot, I can't be bluffed, those people I'm going to make bigger laydowns to.
Right, of course.
And also...
So it's more being sensitive to the environment and to the other perceptions and your interaction with them, rather than using specific, physical movements.
Right, I don't have to do physical movements, but there are betting strategies that people who I play against, who I understand they're analyzing the game, they're using game theory against me. I can manipulate what they think I'm doing. It's really getting into sophisticated psychology by making a play on someone who, I'll give you an example, in a cash game recently here at the Bellagio, I won't mention his name, but I played a hand like trapped him well, and he raised on the button, and I called from the big blind with a small pocket pair instead of coming over the top. Now, a lot, because he's a very aggressive player, a lot of times I'll come back over the top big. This time I just called, mixing it up. I hit a small set. The flop came. I had like pocket fours. Flop came like 2, 4, 5. And I put him on having an ace. So because I put him on having an ace, I checked. He bet. I raised on the flop. Not too big, but raised just enough that he felt that he can hit an ace to take the lead or hit the gut shot straight.
Right.
So he called. He called the raise. Now on the turn, a blank came, and actually on the turn the board paired.
Okay.
Board paired, the top pair or the bottom pair, and I had the middle pair. I had full house. So now I check, and he checks. So now I'm representing like I had the straight draw because it was 2, 4, 5. So if I had a 3 in my hand, I'd have an open and straight.
Right.
So I check, he checks. Now the river puts up a offsuit 10. Now I fire out a bet that's a weak bet, looking like I missed my straight but want to pick up the pot.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of normally, if I think someone doesn't have anything, I would check and have them bluff the
Right,
pot.
because that's their only.
That's the only way to
chance
win
get
it.
money
And
from
they think I missed. But because this player's an aggressive, this is against another player, I would check the river
Right.
and let them try to bluff the pot. Because this player's an aggressive player and actually understands game theory, I made a small pro bet on the
Right.
river, which is going to look weak to him and make him make a big raise to try to bluff
Right,
me out.
right.
And that's exactly what he did.
And the thing is, aggressive guys, they know people are always trying to trap them. So your check on the end is more suspicious. It's more that you've got a hand you feel like you can call with.
Right.
It's less suspicious if you bet out a little out into him. Now he's thinking, well, he knows I'm an aggressive guy, and he didn't give me a chance to bluff at it.
Right.
So it's kind of a deeper level.
So he made a big raise on the river, and as a result, I got an extra 10 grand off of him, and he said, 8 high.
Right.
So
Now you've written a book called Act to Win in
Texas
in
Hold'em poker, yeah.
Now, there have been a lot of books. Obviously, you've got a different angle on this. Is ACT just a play on words in terms of what we were talking about, or is it?
Yeah, it's just a
ACT,
play on words because everyone knows that I used to be an actor, but also you need to act in your decision making in
Right.
poker. So
I mean, this is ACT in terms of action, not
right,
acting.
right, exactly.
Primarily.
But it's a play on words, right?
Right.
Because on the back we have a little film strip
Uh-huh.
of me back here, and I do have an endorsement from Doyle Brunson, who says the information in his book ought to be classified. He highly recommends it.
I mean, the endorsement is that, like I said, 7 final tables of this World Series, runner-up in the Heads-Up Championship. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but I mean, that's a big accomplishment. Again,
Yes.
you've specialized in these strong fields, because that has a super strong field. You made it to the final against Paul Wasika. No shame in that. Second
No!
place in that. So it's been a very strong couple of years. And is this book out now? Or,
This book is out now. It's if people want to find out where to get it, because of all our distribution has not been solidified yet. It just came out. They can go to my MySpace page. Go to www.myspace.com/ChadBrownPoker, and we'll give you all the information you need to get it.
Chad, thanks for coming by. Very
Thank
interesting.
you.
Continued good luck.
Good luck to you too.
And we'll be back on The Scoop tomorrow.